Hey everyone! In July of 2023, I presented a seminar at Tzu Chi Hospital in beautiful Hualien in Taiwan. This seminar was on common errors in academic writing, and it was given to doctors and researchers at the hospital, as well as to faculty and staff attendees online from these 3 additional universities. If you enjoy these free seminars, please like and subscribe. You can also leave a comment or question below, and I will read it and reply. Thanks! Now on to my super clear seminar on common errors in academic writing. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. I normally don't use a microphone because I'm loud, so if I'm too loud now, please let me know. So my name is Antony. Please call me Antony, and today I'm going to go back to the opening screen. There we go. We're going to talk about some common errors in academic writing. I've got a lot of examples for you for medical English because we're in a hospital. Before I get started, if I'm talking too quickly, that's okay. Just raise your hand. Antony, can you please slow down? Also, you can ask a question at any time, and welcome to everybody online as well. You're welcome to ask a question online. I'd be happy to help as best I can. And my wonderful colleague Lee can also help translate if you have a question in Chinese. That's okay as well. All right? Nice to meet you all, and thanks for all the organizers of the event. I'm excited to be here. All right. A little bit about me, just so you can get used to my English for a second. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio in the USA. We have a lot of corn and soy. That's all you need to know about Cincinnati. I'm living in Taipei. I've been in Taiwan for a little over a year now. I visited twice before COVID. I love it here. It's beautiful. I love the nature. I love being in the mountains. And the diverse plant and animal life gets me up in the morning. I started teaching many years ago. The clicker has stopped working. Oh, there we go. Okay. Started teaching many years ago in Japan. I was teaching children and adults, conversation English, some business classes as well. I loved it, and I keep doing it today. Hiking and sports is what I'm interested in, and I like to take photos. Taiwan is a great place to take photos of wildlife if you like insects and stuff like that, which I do. So, and I love the ecology and the biology as well. Okay, so today's lesson plan, it's about 60 minutes of lecture time, lots of time for questions as well. We're going to talk first about specific versus vague language in academic writing. We have some Chinese translations as well for you. We're going to talk about concise versus wordy language. We're going to move on to countables versus uncountables. And then we're going to use industry phrases as well. And lastly, talk about using articles. In general, these are the most common mistakes in academic writing. As you know, writing is challenging and difficult. There's 1,000 things you need to think about, but hopefully this will give you some good ideas to look for improvements. In this lesson, we're going to repeat this structure. It's going to repeat itself. So we're going to start with the sentence problem, move on to an explanation of the problem, improve the sentence, and then an explanation of the improvements. So kind of a 4-step process to learning. Fixed writing problem 1, use specific words, don't use vague words. All right. Vague means unclear or not specific, and academic writing needs specific information to add value. We'll talk a little bit about specific information, but this is data, numbers, 20% increase, statistically significant, what's your p-value. These are specific things we're looking for. And academic writing needs to be more specific than other writing styles. So, we'll talk more about this. And it's even more specific words are needed for technical documents, such as specification manuals. So academic writing can kind of get more technical. If you're reading how to operate an MRI machine is going to use very specific language. Yes. Next slide. So here's our first sentence with problem. Studies have indicated that one of the important causes of CAD in most patients with AMI was the lack of sufficient care after discharge. CAD, coronary artery disease, AMI, acute myocardial infarction. Infarction? Yes. Anyone have an idea what the problem with the sentence is? Imagine this is in a research paper. So remember, vague means unclear or not specific. So here, our problem is one of and important. Those are both vague words in academic writing. Okay for maybe a newspaper, but for an academic publication, they're a little vague. Okay, let's explain the problem. One of, how many causes are there? Which cause is the most frequent? So one of is vague because there might be 100 causes of the problem. So one of doesn't really help us. Is it the second most probable, the 30th cause? And then one of adds more questions to the reader. Well, if it's one of the most important causes, what's the most important cause? What's the second most important cause? Is this a big problem or is it a little problem? Does everyone need to know this cause or does some people need to know this cause? So one of adds more questions for the reader. Let's talk about the word important. Explanation of problem for important. Everything in your research is important. So saying it's important is a wasted word. If something is not important, don't write it. Yeah? So obviously everything in your paper is important, so most of the time you don't need the word important. So let's improve this sentence or paragraph by including why it's important and let the reasons speak. Don't tell me it's important, tell me why it's important. Ultimately, the reader decides what's important. So let me give you the information and you interpret the data, the reasons, the explanations. Let's improve this sentence. Problem fixed. Studies have indicated that a cause of CAD in most patients with AMI was the lack of sufficient care after discharge. Problem fixed explanation. If other causes are not relevant for this paper, just write a cause is clearer. If other causes are relevant, then give specifics. Indicated that the third most common cause, this is extremely clear. So if you have the numbers, okay, we're talking about the third most common cause of CAD. So now the reader knows it's important, they know it's important, third most common cause, but now they also know that there's two other main causes that they could do more research on or find another paper on. Here are some examples for specific versus vague. On the left, we have typically used vague words, and then on the right, we have some examples of how you would make those words more specific. So on the left, important, become the leading method for. Become the leading method for. I would also say significant can be a vague word. Significant and important are synonyms. And you should use significant when you're talking about statistical significance. So something can be significant and not statistically significant. So it's a little confusing. So I say use significant when you're talking about statistical significance. Let's be really clear with that. Vary, 2 standard deviations from the mean. It's very important. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the data. Extremely, recorded at 10% increase. If you notice here, we have 10%, 20%, 30%, 20%, 57%. You see the pattern? Numbers in academic writing are extremely important. Let the numbers show the importance. Let the numbers speak for your data. More, a 20% increase in. Probably, increase the likelihood by 30%, probably is a very vague word. Efficient is an academic word, but it can be vague, so increase the efficiency by 20%. That's good, that's okay. Most, so between 50.7 and 60.2, most could be 50.1. Most could be 99%. So most can be a very vague word. There's a huge difference between 50.1 and 99%. So let's take out the word most and add the data. And then challenging. Challenging can be a vague word. So unlikely to be affordable for the department budgets. It's a good alternative. Any questions here? We're going to move on to the next problem. Okay. I'll take a quick note about this. When editing research papers, this is a lot of my time, is changing the vague words to more specific language, or asking the researcher to tell me what the specific language is that they need. This takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of, like if I'm writing, it takes many iterations, many revisions to get this right. So here's a small exercise. I'm going to read this paragraph out loud. While I'm reading it, identify the vague words. There are many. There's maybe 15 to 20. So I'll read it, and as I'm reading it, identify the vague words. Start at the top. Over the past decade or so, the energy consumption has increased in the world, mainly due to increasing population and economic development of countries. Governments are planning to take important steps towards compulsory usage of electric vehicles. As we know, about 80 to 90% of the energy consumed in the world is obtained by combustion of fossil fuels such as oils, natural gas, coal, and oil shales. Hence, to overcome this, solar power is used in the form of reliable renewable energy. Now, with the rise of new technology, innovations like solar roof tiles have made solar power even more affordable and accessible. Solar roof tiles are smaller than the traditional panels. Solar tiles are about 12 inches wide and by 18 inches long. Tesla is one of the best and leading company in the field of solar products. Tesla's solar roof tiles are more efficient than the other companies in the market. And this was taken directly from an article posted in an open source journal with no peer review process. It is an academic paragraph. It feels good to read. You understand the information. I can almost make this half the size. Almost. So let's look at some of the vague words. There we go. The circles have bumped up a little bit, but over the past decade or so, obviously vague. Let's give specific. Over the past 6 years, 12 years, 21 years. Has increased. Increase is a vague word. Let's give some numbers. Mainly due is a little vague. We can make that clear. Important, we've talked about it. As we know, about 80 to 90%. As we know is not a good, don't assume anything from your audience, because I did not know 80 to 90%. So now I feel stupid as the reader. Oh, I'm missing something. I didn't know this, right? So take it out. That's okay. To overcome this, I'm not sure what overcome means. I know what overcome means grammatically by the definition, but are we talking about increasing efficiency, reducing cost, increasing accessibility? Reliable renewable energy. There's many reliable sources of renewable energy, different degrees, solar, wind, geothermal. Now with the rise of new technology, how many new technologies are there in the world? Too many. So this is very vague. Accessible, does that mean cheap? Does that mean available in all countries? What does accessible mean? Smaller, vague, we want data, 20% smaller. Great opportunity for a number here when you want to say smaller. Then the traditional panels, What's a traditional solar panel? Is it the big square ones? I guess. I'm not sure. Tesla is one of the best countries. Let's make it more specific. Companies, more specific. Solar products. What's a solar product? I don't know. I can tell by this we're talking about renewable energy, but there's many types of solar products, especially if you're in that field. If it's field specific, there's much more than the common person. More efficient, let's add data. And last one, other companies in the market. Let's list the other companies. Is it Amazon? Is it, I don't know, other companies that make solar products? Any other company would be great. So let's look at an improvement. So I trimmed about 25% off of here, and if I had more ambition, I could make it more. I'm going to read it here. So in the past 20 years, we've got a number. Population growth and economic development has driven global energy consumption up by 65%. The burning of fossil fuels accounts for 80 to 90% of global energy consumption and is the leading cause of climate change. To slow the release of human greenhouse gas emissions, governments are looking towards solar power as a promising alternative to fossil fuels. With recent innovations, solar roof tiles have made solar power affordable and accessible. Tesla is an industry leader in the solar roof tile technology. Tesla's solar roof tiles are small and easy to replace and are 23% more efficient than other leading companies. Some small improvements you could make, small and easy to replace, is okay in marketing terms. In academic writing, you might want to use data there as well. I did not have the data, not my research paper. Here are some big improvements that I've marked out here. So, for example, the burning of fossil fuels, I think before was just greenhouse gas emissions. Greenhouse gas emissions is vague, but the burning of fossil fuels is specific. What do we want to do? We want to slow the release of those. We're making an alternative to fossil fuels. Solar roof tile technology, before it was solar technology, I think. And then we have more data here. Small note, we'll talk about this later, but you see fossil fuels, fossil fuels. It's great to repeat terminology in academic writing. You don't want to say 5 different words. You want to choose one term and repeat it through your paper. Because when you change the term, you potentially confuse your audience. Oh, are we talking about something else? So if I said fossil fuels here, and I said coal. Okay, coal is more specific, but are we ignoring natural gas now? See, there's a huge difference. So keeping the same terminology is very important. Fix writing problem number 2, write concisely and do not use extra words. So I've shown you a little bit about how writing concisely can help. Now let's look at some good examples. So academic writing needs to have clear meanings first, but don't use extra words. Usually, you'll read that academic writing needs to be concise. That's the same thing. This is a very challenging goal to achieve. So here's another way to visualize it. Squeeze your writing to be concise, but don't damage clarity. So there's a balance you're trying to strike. I want my writing to be short and concise, but I also want it to be clear and accurate. Longer sentences sometimes are the answer. Sometimes you need extremely long, complicated sentences with colons and semicolons. But on average, shorter sentences make sense. But why? 3 reasons to be concise. Researchers are busy, and concise articles are faster to read. You are all busy people, right? You are constantly working, but you also need new information. You're in the field of new information, where new information benefits the lives of people. Publishing costs money, and concise articles may be cheaper to publish. You also have budgets, right? Number 3, extra words can add uncertainty and confusion, and concise language is usually the clearest. Usually. Here's a good example. I like apples, and I don't dislike apples. I don't dislike apples. Well, they almost mean the same thing, and I don't dislike apples is confusing, and it's grammatically correct. So you can be grammatically correct and confusing. So this is what we're going to focus on. I like apples. I eat an apple every morning. I recommend it. Sentence with problem. The experiment was halted due to the fact that funding was withdrawn. The experiment was halted due to the fact that funding was withdrawn. Any ideas what we can fix? Due to the fact. It's extra words. Improved. Because. The experiment was halted because funding was withdrawn. We lost no meaning, and we made the sentence shorter. Avoid wordiness. Due to the fact is wordy. And be confident. Everything in academic writing should be factual. So due to the fact. You would never say due to the non-fact. So just cut it out. Improved. The experiment was halted because funding was withdrawn. It's a sad sentence. I hope this never happens. Here are some commonly used extra words in academic writing. Due to the fact, in order for, absolutely essential, very, we all know, so on, etc., and so forth. In terms of, already, it goes without saying. A lot of these words you'll see in newspapers, and that's okay. Again, you can have beautifully grammatically correct sentences that are easy to understand. In academic writing, though, we want to be as concise as possible. And I'm sorry, there's not always a perfect, alternative to these words, so that's why there is not one. But very, that's when you're going to put data. It's very important. It's 60% improvement in. That would be a great opportunity to add more words, actually. And already often comes at the end of a sentence. You can just delete it. It doesn't change your sentence if you delete it sometimes. Okay, fixed writing problem number 3. Use countables correctly and don't count the uncountables. This is a great section where you might have to Google, is this word countable? I sometimes have to do that. So here we go. Some nouns are countable, 2 apples, 5 hours. Some nouns are not countable. English is weird, I'm sorry. Incorrect, 2 informations. It's incorrect, so you'd say there is information. Correct, 2 pieces of information. Yeah. English has a lot of irregulars, and as English learners, I'm sure you are familiar with the irregulars. Countables depend on the language, and English grammar is chaotic sometimes. This is where maybe Google is your best friend. There we go. Let's do some examples. Sentence with problem. Several previous researches have shown. So, researches is not countable. Explanation, use studies instead. Several studies have shown. Researchers are countable. 1 researcher, 2 researchers, 3 researchers. So 20 researchers from the University of Arizona found that. It's okay. A study that was published is always previous. A study that is published is always previous. This is a funny thing. So previous studies have shown, delete the word previous. If it's published, it was in the past. So we know it. So you don't need that word at all in most situations. I can't say for all situations, but I can say for most. So improved, several studies have shown. And this is one of those sentences, the introduction sentences, that you can use again and again and again in your life. You don't need to think about this introduction anymore. Several studies have shown. And research is not countable. So other correct examples, many researchers continue to be perplexed by the quantity of, okay? Our research was conducted in 2 stages, the early stage, the final stage. Yeah, so you wouldn't say our research was conducted. There we go. All right, data is not countable. This is a tough one. So there are fewer data available concerning the predictive value. Well, data is not countable, so the fewer is a problem. So a great solution is limited. You can replace fewer with limited in many situations. There is limited available data concerning the predictive value. I kind of do this similarly with, so you can say like affect and effect, or you could just say impacted. So if you don't know if it's affect or effect, impacted works in both situations. My sister taught me that trick. She said, don't worry about it. Just use impacted. Limited is one of those words. Keep it in your pocket. Explanation, data is not countable. Data. Fewer is comparative. Fewer than what? So if you use fewer, you need to compare it to a different study or different countries or different situations. Next problem, 4 and 5, avoid wordiness and grammar mistakes. We're kind of getting a little more vague as we go. So at the beginning we started with a really simple problem and now we're getting a little more open. And so with these, avoiding wordiness and grammar mistakes, you use the same ideas that we've already covered. Sentence with problem. In the past, several studies have showed that patients with HF, heart failure, present something. I love this example because at first it feels good. It just feels normal, and then once we clean it up, it gets a little better. So in the past, showed HF. These are our wordiness and grammatical mistakes. So in the past is wordy, as we talked about, full term first. So we're talking about HF. Except where the abbreviation is very common, put the full term first, e.g. heart failure, HF. A common term, DNA. You probably don't need to write out deoxyribonucleic acid in all of your papers. Probably. Probably not. Improved. Several studies have shown that patients with heart failure present. So have showed to have shown. I think that's right. Avoiding wordiness, next example, explanation. Have shown for current knowledge. Have shown is more for current and relevant today. Other correct examples, studies from the 1990s showed that patients with something, however, more recent studies have shown. So if the study was published recently, have shown. If it's a long time ago, showed. If you don't know what a long time ago is, ask yourself, has the situation changed? So in the past, smoking was good for weight loss. Since then, several studies have shown. And then, of course, when you do your citation, I'm looking for more than one study, right? I'm looking for several studies in your citation after this. So has the situation changed? If so, has shown. Another example, Newton showed that the gravitational force was proportional to. However, Einstein has since shown as speeds approach the speed of light. So Einstein is more recent than Newton. So have shown. The situation changed. Fixed writing problem 6, use common phrasings in your industry. Before I get into this section, I have a note here that I would like to say, and it's not written. Also, know who your audience is. Whom are you writing for? Is this an international journal that mostly Americans read? Is it an international journal that mostly South Africans read or East Asians read? So you have to know your audience when you're using industry phrases. If you want everyone to understand, regardless of their industry, then industry phrases are very challenging. They're very difficult for other people to understand. But if you know most people that read your article are in Taiwan, then you can use very specific industry language because your audience is small. As your audience gets bigger, industry-specific language becomes more confusing. Sometimes. Sometimes. Here's an example. Sentence with problem. Biological structural materials are leading engineers to an unprecedented design space. Sounds academic. It is grammatically correct. Biological structural. That's our problem. So, biologically inspired or bio-inspired materials. There's different terms for this, biological structural. So use the modern accepted terminology correctly to gain trust. To gain trust. If I write in my paper biological structural and all other researchers are writing bio-inspired, I'm in trouble. They lose trust in me because now they see me as ignorant. They think I don't understand the research because I'm using the wrong term. Other researchers aren't going to want to cite my paper if I'm using the wrong terms. It can also be confusing, so it builds trust and lowers confusion. So, how do we do this? I Googled here, biological structural materials. And look what came up. So I'm looking for this phrase, biological structural materials. So I see structural design and biological materials, so no. The first link does not use my phrase. The second link, structural biological materials, it's not the same phrase. Second link does not. Third, biological materials, it does not use my phrase. Next page down, biological to bio-inspired materials. Okay, that's an interesting phrase, bio-inspired. Right? And then we come here, biological and biologically inspired materials. So we see a little bit in the research that there's maybe not a consensus. We don't know. Some people are using some different terms. So let's move on. I changed my search to bio-inspired. And we see bio-inspired, 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 bio-inspired. So when the search engine starts producing articles that use your term, that's how you know you're in a good place. So before I searched something and everyone was giving me different search terms, and now we see people are using bio-inspired materials. And you can do this with any phrase, any term. And why is this important? How are people going to find your article if you use the wrong phrase? If you're doing research on MRI machines and you don't use the word MRI in your paper, no one's going to find your paper. So you have to use what people are searching for. And that's how every YouTuber or content creator or news story is made. They use the most common phrases that people are actually going to search. In addition, if you're publishing in a journal, they might be looking for bio-inspired. So when you give them your paper and their computer does not read bio-inspired, they might reject your paper immediately because it's not using the right term that they want in their paper. So it helps you get published, it helps you get noticed and recognized, and it helps people find your paper, and it also builds trust. So when other researchers read your paper, they know that you understand the topic well. You might need to do this for 20 or 30 phrases in each paper. This potentially could be an extremely important task for you. So sentence with problem. Biological structural materials are leading engineers to an unprecedented design space. Improved sentence, bio-inspired structural materials. It's okay. Fix writing problem 7, using articles correctly. Articles are challenging because you use them so often. So you might get 95% of your articles correct, and you might miss 5, and those 5 are a problem. That's why this is so challenging. Sentence with problem. We found the cure for cancer. If I read this, I have a huge problem. How many different types of cancers are there? I don't know. Hundreds? Thousands? I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but there's so many. So one cure for all cancers? Science fiction right now. This would be front page news on every single channel in the entire world. So I never expect to see the cure. Improved, we found a cure for cancer. If you want more specific language, we found a cure for Hodgkin's lymphoma, right? So article, the or a changes the meaning of your sentence. It's not just a grammatical mistake, because it is grammatically correct, but it is a meaning mistake. And it completely changes the meaning, and it changes the tone. So the means there is only one, and the readers know which one. This is your caveat, your conditional. You need both of these when you use the word the. Sentence with problem. Acute myocardial infarction, I might be mispronouncing that wrong, it's not a common word. AMI is the complication of coronary artery disease, CAD. Is the. So here we go, here's where the is used incorrectly. The complication indicates that it's the only complication. That's very unlikely that it's the only complication. So an improvement sentence, acute myocardial infarction is a complication of coronary artery disease. How can we make this more specific? Any ideas? We can improve this sentence even more. Any? Yeah. So is a complication, is one of the complications, is the third most common complication. Exactly. When I see A, it's okay, but what it makes me feel is that it's not important, the number. Is it the third or the fourth? So it means it's not important for the reader to know. And sometimes if you give too much data in your introduction, it can kind of lead to confusion because the reader may not know what the main point is. The or and changes the meaning. The means there is only one, and the readers know which one. Okay? Here's a good note. The is useful for definitions. A is useful for categorizations. So a complication, it's one of the complications, it's categorizing it. Next slide. Improved. So plays an important role. Word order for paragraph structure. Note, when setting up the timeline of events, start your sentence with currently. So we talked about currently earlier, and that's where we start here. If I read the word currently, I might be thinking the next sentence is going to talk about in the past. So currently this is a complication, but 30 years ago the complication was, or a complication was, or before this maybe we're talking in the past. So be specific in your writing. After the sentence, explain why TAVR is important. So here we have currently transcatheter aortic valve replacement. You have hard English. TAVR plays an important role in the management of. I write this here after this sentence because we said an important role, and I said and can be improved to maybe the third most important. But if you have a next sentence explaining why it's important, then that's all you need. An explanation, let the reader understand the importance on their own. How are we on time? We're okay? Next one, fixed writing problem, mixed example. Sentence with problem. Because of COVID-19, our attitudes towards remote work have been completely changed. Ensuring the quality of remote cooperation has become very important. Any ideas on the problems? Have been? Have been can be vague. See, I would say for have been, does the sentence change if you take out been? So remote work has completely changed. Remote work have been completely changed. You know, the sentence might not, it changes, you have to change the beginning, but that's okay. So completely, the quality and very are my big ones. So here's the problem again. I just needed to scoot it up. Improved. Because of COVID-19, our attitudes remote work have changed completely. Ensuring high-quality remote cooperation has become particularly important. So very important is a little vague. Particularly feels like, oh, it's interesting. It's of interesting importance. If I see the word particularly, I'm like, oh, we're going into the problem statement or what the research is going to focus on. What are the people writing interested in? Improved further, avoid vagueness and write specifically. This is a different sentence. Social distancing imposed during the COVID-19 pandemic is changing attitudes towards remote work, with attention shifting to avoid losses in teamwork effectiveness. So this is a little longer. We used a little bit more words, but the clarity is so much better. Our attitudes, because of COVID-19, what part of COVID-19 changed our attitudes? Was it troubles breathing? Was it wearing masks? No, social distancing was the situation. Because of social distancing, online learning became important. So let's say that COVID-19 had many problems, many challenges, many changes to our environment. But for here, social distancing imposed during COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic, is changing attitudes towards remote work with attention shifting to avoiding losses in teamwork effectiveness. Cooperation, teamwork effectiveness. It's just better words. I don't know how to explain that. It's just better words. Remote cooperation sounds vague. It's like, okay, are you good at communicating? Are you good at teamwork? Are you good at networking? But teamwork effectiveness, okay, so you're working with colleagues and coworkers. So it becomes more specific. Uni-edit provides English editing and translation services to Asia's top universities. Please visit the Uni-edit website link below for details about Uni-edit's English editing services for your research manuscripts.